GameWorn Radio is on the air.
Hey! Chilton scores! Up in the Cordova, baby! We're going bowling. Now, let's go hunt moose on a Harley.
The fires, he scores! LA face with an Oakland booty. Make me a bicycle club. They score! Bowmeister paid that man his money.
GameWorn Radio.
Hey everybody, it's Derek with GameWorn Radio, part of GameWorn.us. How's everybody doing?
I'm good.
Fantastic. Glad to be back.
Yeah, it's about time you're back.
That whole man cave and moving into a new house thing is kind of important, and not having internet makes Skyping a real bitch.
Hey, you could always phone in like Marco's done from his apparent piece of shit car. That's what he said. All right, so
In
on the
his
show
driveway,
tonight,
right? Wasn't it his driveway?
yeah, I don't know where he was. But on the show tonight, we've got Dan, Jason, Paul, Bert, and Eric. And tonight's topic is working or dealing with teams, team interactions, talking to the teams about jerseys, how they sell them, any sort of experiences that you've had with actual dealing with teams direct, whether they have their own program or they don't have their own program, or it's kind of a program. So you kind of get the idea. It's just trying to go to the teams direct about trying to get game-worn jerseys and things like that. Now, we had a lot of good conversation prior to the show about some of the stuff that has been going on, so we'll probably want to recap that. But I'm going to go ahead and open up the conversation with my interactions with my local ECHL team. That's the Toledo Walleye. Now, they've been really good to me, so I don't want to trash talk them or anything, but I really wish they had like an actual set program of sorts. So just to give you guys an example of what I'm talking about, I mean, the Walleye, when they sell their jerseys, you know, people are always asking them, hey, can I get this person? Can I get this person? Well, apparently, about midway through the year, you can email them and get on a list of, like, here's all the players that I want over the year. If you email them too early, they tell you, hold on, email us towards the end of the year and we'll get you on the list. Now, you never know the date that the list starts, so you email them too early, you get that response. You email them too late, you're 8, 9, 10 deep. And the jersey collectors out here are pretty crazy. So you get on this list, which is cool, and that can be helpful if you're really trying to get something specific. But then the problem comes into play of actually getting the jerseys. So that's great you have a list. That's great that they try to go off the list. But I have seen so many times, and specifically last year, some people either didn't know about the list, or people were on the list very high up and didn't get what they were looking for. I was lucky because I was dealing with the Walleye a lot, you know, because I'm trying to help them sell their overstock. Just to let them know, you know, you can get your jerseys out there from outside our local market, and they'll still sell. And it's money. It's money you're leaving on the table. It's stock that you have to maintain and take care of when you don't need to. So I had a lot of interactions with that, and that kind of helped me out with getting a couple things that I want. I still didn't get everything I wanted. I tried to help out a bunch of the people get some things, but then I do know of some people that weren't on the list and ended up asking somebody who was working a raffle booth or just in the shop, like, hey, I want this player's jersey. And they go in the back and they're like, oh yeah, I can get that for you. And they just bring it out. But it's on somebody's list. Or somebody wanted it who's on the list. And, you know, there's just no rhyme or reason. And it's not a set thing. You don't know when you can get what. You don't know if they're going to follow the list exactly, or, you know, maybe next year I can talk to this person and get everything that I want before anybody else has a chance. And it's just, there's not a defined structure to it, so it makes it really hard. I know, Dan, you were trying to get some stuff from the Walleye, and
I was
either
the same as you. I called. It
communication
was
was
supposed to
hard.
be on some list, and then the list was gone.
Yeah. So I mean, at least in my regard, that's an experience that I have, and they've done right by me. They've done some really good things for me, but for other people, maybe not so much. And I'd really like to just see standardization or a rhyme or a reason as to why things are the way they are. And I've tried to talk to them about it, and it just seems like they don't care. We're small fish; they don't care. But I mean, the best thing you can do is try. If they say we don't care, then that's that. It's just a rough situation. Anyone want to share?
My biggest thing is, and we talked about it before we came on, is the Blues seem to be all over the board with theirs. Last season, and even the season before that, I remember one of the local guys I know in St. Louis bought, and I don't remember which set it was now. I'd have to look. Local guy made a deal, bought the whole set, marketed them very well.
Mike Grove.
What's that, Derek?
Mike Grove.
Yes. Yep. Thank you.
Very good guy.
And I thought he did a phenomenal job with offering payment plans to people that really wanted a jersey, and worked with everybody that wanted to get what they wanted, and he was hoping to get more, and they went to the company in Florida, and the Florida the day that it was made public that they had them, they were flooded with calls. I know jerseys flew out of there. They've still got I think they still have a few available, but they were guys, lower end guys that I thought on those particular prices were a little high. But then after they did it for that set, everything else, almost everything else showed up in the store, and then they had, I think it was set 2 went to the NHL auction site, and that was when in the middle of the auction the site was not working correctly, taking any more auctions or any more bids, and people got steals on some of those jerseys.
Yeah, that's a big mess.
But the Blues just seem to be all over the board with how they do it. And if you call the store and they've got stuff in, they're fantastic with talking about where and this, that, whatever, or getting it shipped out to you, because I'm 2 hours away, can't get down there often enough if I was to pick it up or whatever. But I just wish they could get one standard way to do it and market them right, because if you're not on the secret list or calling them all the time, you don't know when they've shown up in the stores, and a lot of the guys disappear before you even know they're available.
Yeah, I mean, standardization would definitely make it easier. I think one of the things with them is they're looking to unload sets of jerseys at a time, like full on sale. So when they sell it to the dudes in Florida, it's here's a set, and we'll take that pile of cash right now. I've tried to contact the Blues about trying to create some standardization or helping them out or anything like that, whether it's listing jerseys or just getting a stock list or anything like that, and they just seem completely uninterested unless you're buying everything off of them. And that's not something that we're really looking to do. So, like, you've got your Meigray in Detroit Hockey Company, and what they do is they own the jerseys. Now that makes it tough for like local teams. So Detroit Hockey Company buys St. Louis Blues jerseys while they're no longer in St. Louis. So if you want to get one of the jerseys, you have to order it from them. You can't walk into the store, and you're losing visibility. It's not something that I've been trying to pitch to them. I just want to help them get the word out there, organize things, talk to them about what collectors are looking for, advise them on pricing and things like that. That way they can still have their local sales, because you're always going to want that. But then you expand beyond your local market, and that's where a lot of teams really miss the boat, is expanding beyond the locale. Like with the Walleye, I think I bought at one crack 4 jerseys and sent them off to Germany. I mean, it's things like that they just miss the boat, and they probably think, we're not making much money on this, but you could either sell them or sit on them. You got to make a decision.
To have a little dissenting opinion on that, Derek, the Meigray used to do, and I don't think they did this with any other team. They used to do what they called a Verizon set, where it was one game a year. They had a new set, and the Caps play one game. It's typically a pretty high profile game, like the previous year was Penguins, and then what they did is they sold it only at the arena. Okay, the problem is they sold those at pretty much the same Meigray prices, except for maybe a couple that were a little bit better, but none of them sold. None of them. None of them sold in the store. So what they did is they ended up throwing them up on NHL.com, which they went quite a bit lower than, say, a normal set jersey, which may have a dozen games in it. So they've tried it. I mean, and this is from the NHL team. Now maybe in the AHL and the ECHL you have a little better luck, but I haven't seen, at least in my local teams, that have a lot of success, just because once you get your Jason Chimera jersey, I don't think there's a whole lot of more people getting out there once there's a dozen of them out there already.
Yeah, I actually have one of those Verizon set jerseys, and I got it in a grab bag. Yeah, they put them in a grab bag one year. I think that was in 2011. But I think part of the problem with that is it was a one-day thing. So you could buy them at the game, the next game after they wore them or something like that, or was something really close to along those lines. So they put them out there for one game, and part of the problem is people aren't going there planning on dropping the cash. That it's also not, an established thing. So teams that sell them in the stores, everybody knows they sell them in the store because they've sold them in the store for years. So you go down the store and you're like, oh, what's new? You have a sale on the concourse for one game, and people are like, that's neat. But I don't think you're going to get a lot of buyers. I think it's part of the marketing and establishment. It's kind of like what we're talking about is the creating a set platform. It's like what Jason's saying with St. Louis. You could go to the store and get jerseys if they have them there. Otherwise, who knows where they are? Where did they send them this year? I don't know. So it's kind of like, I think what we see with the Verizon Center set from Washington is that similar concept. Paul, want to tell us about the Sharks?
Sure. So as most people, well, hopefully most people know, the Sharks do a sale at the end of every season, and they put everything out there. Every set, gloves, gear, just all sorts of crap on top of that too. Basically, first come, first serve. Nothing's that they don't put anything on hold. But for the sale, and suite holders and employees getting first, and season ticket holders, and then the general public over 3 days. There are also additional sets which are sold via auction during the season. Those are mostly 1 or 2 game wonders that the Sharks Foundation sell for charity. Honestly, dealing with the Sharks and buying at the sale has been absolutely wonderful. I mean, the equipment staff there is really cooperative to help research stuff. The only drawback is the sale's only 2 to 3 days. And, I frequently, the Sharks also allow me in early to take photos from the start to the end, which is really, really cool and helpful. But the problem is then 2-3 days after the sale, someone will contact me and say, hey, do they still have that jersey? Honestly, for the new sets, they don't sell that many of them. Probably less than a quarter of them sell. So there's lots of stuff left over. And buying them during the summer, it just all depends who's around from the Sharks. If someone's available to sell them, they will in the summer. During the season, they're not too crazy about willing to sell individual jerseys and stuff. Now, we also know with the Sharks, Brian from Detroit Hockey Company just purchased. Someone's cutting in. Go ahead.
Oh, it was my hardware. You said Brian from Detroit Hockey Company purchased a bunch?
Yeah, blame the hardware. Yeah, Brian purchased the remaining set from 2013 and 14. So all the jerseys that were not sold at the last two sales from that set, he's purchased, and they are now on the Detroit Hockey Company site. And his pricing's really good. It's very similar to what the Sharks were charging. Everything's within, $50 to $50 or so. I think it's the biggest variation I saw. So they seem to be selling fairly well. And as we know, dealing with Brian's always great. So, and this is the first time I remember the Sharks actually selling a large set for someone else to resell them. As many people know, the Sharks during the sale have a no resale policy. Everything you buy is supposed to be for your collection and never sold again. We all know how realistic that is. And, I frequently take orders from friends from all over. I know many people on this call today have gotten jerseys that way. And the Sharks, even though it's against their policy, they have no issues with it.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that, historically in the past, they've generally only sold locally. It's been really hard to find out what they have or even obtain it. And now they're trying something new, which is really cool, which kind of opens it up globally. So they've done the local stuff, and now they're doing the more global avenue where, somebody else is handling them. They know what they want to look at. They know what we want to see as far as like where information, pricing, and they're making that information available to us, and then we can order it no matter where we are. So if you want a Sharks jersey, it's pretty easy to get now. So it's nice to see teams actually taking a step in what I feel is the correct direction as far as handling a hockey program like that. Now, something that we can both talk about, Paul, is working with the Red Wings, and I know we both have very different experiences. I know you've been working with them or talking to them about jerseys and things like that.
Well, actually, Derek, before we go on the Red Wings, I just want to add one thing for the Sharks.
Yeah.
Moving forward, I don't know exactly all the details of how Detroit Hockey Company is going to work with the Sharks, but what I do know is jerseys will always be offered first at the end of the season sale.
Which completely makes sense.
Yeah, the Sharks do not want that. They want to reward their season ticket holders and suite holders to have first access at them, and that's part of the reason why they have that no resale rule, which they know is not followed. But I would never expect the Detroit Hockey Company or Meigray or anyone to have a full set of jerseys before they're offered via the Sharks, until unless they changed equipment staffs, which I highly doubt they would do.
No, they definitely do it the right way, for sure.
Hey, so Paul, do you think the Barracuda are going to follow that since they're going to share the same arena?
That's a really good question. I know the Barracuda have like 3 or 4 specialty jerseys planned this year that will be auctioned off after the games.
Yeah, well, we know we know specialty jerseys get auctioned off. I think we're talking about regular season jerseys, the set 1, set 2, if that's what they wear. I know the Shark, when they were in Worcester, they were pretty good about having an end-of-year equipment sale, and you could find them. You could call up there, maybe find some extras or find somebody that lived up there that could help you out. So I'm wondering if they're going to just mix the Barracuda in with the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, I've been meaning to ask them that, and I just keep forgetting on that. I keep getting sidetracked with other issues with them. I would kind of expect them to do it. And one thing they did this past year is they combined the end of the year equipment sale with the store sale, where they sell all, T-shirts, jackets, everything at heavily discounted prices. And instead of having it at the practice rink where they had a small connector area, which I know Derek's seen, they had it this time at the arena on the ice floor. And it was massive. So there was plenty of room left that the Barracuda stuff could easily fit in there too. And matter of fact, they did have a lot of stuff from the W Sharks. They had a lot of gloves, helmets, no jerseys or anything this past year, but plenty of gear from them made it here. So adding the Barracuda stuff into the Shark sale is definitely possible logistically and space-wise. If they choose to do that, hopefully I'll know pretty soon.
Yeah, and speaking of the Worcester Sharks, they actually had their own equipment sale, and they had one of our collectors helping them out, kind of giving them information, Steve Conway. So that was pretty cool to see them get somebody involved for their final sale. So on to the Red Wings and our different experiences, and I can probably contribute part of those experiences to your longevity and your history that you have with them. But that just means it's harder for a newer collector to get to where they want to be, I guess. I know as far as my personal experiences go, getting on lists seems extremely difficult. For me, I've had not the best experience when I order something and getting the correct thing. I've sent a couple things back so far, which has been disappointing. I've heard, when I discover that something is not as it should be, and I mention something, I feel like I get put on a shit list really quick. And I'm not really a fan of that, because I'm just trying to, like, have everything documented correctly. Because, I mean, you're going to want to know what you have. And if you can prove what you have with pictures and such, and you're being told it's something else, there's something going on with that. So I feel like I've been put on the shit list because I have the audacity to question something, or like when I send in emails for information, like really quick one-word answers or maybe like half my question isn't really addressed and things like that. The only real good experience I have is when I go to the end of the year sale. And that's about it. So, like, any of the specialty jerseys, Winter Classics, I anticipate I'm going to get SOL on the Stadium Series stuff this year, so hopefully somebody can help me out, because y'all know what I want.
I can't even guess what you want, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, unless somebody wants to shut me down or something like that, but we'll see on that. But I've already asked to be on that list. Like, as soon as it was announced for sure that it was going down, I sent out an email, didn't get a confirmation, so who knows where that's actually going to be. But like I said, at the sale, I always have really good experience, even when I don't get what I want, which hopefully that won't happen next year. But as far as like remote communication, it's just, I don't feel like I get as good of responses and rapport as you do.
I'll agree with you on that, because I know what your experiences have been. And some of the responses you have received have surprised me. Yeah, I mean, when you email someone there and you get a response from someone else saying, please don't contact this person, that just surprises me.
Well, even when it's, tracking down something that's pretty damn important. You go to the first person, you're like, hey, this is what it is. And they're like, pretty much, I don't care. And so you go to the person who would know more about it, and then you get that. And I'm just like, taken back. Like, to me, it's like, I'm not doing anything wrong. Why are you treating me like that? It's a tough situation.
You had it documented really well on what the error was on that. And for people who don't know, this is involving a patch jersey. The Red Wings, when they had the Lindstrom retirement night, same thing with the Eiserman retirement night ages ago, they wore the patches for one game. They remove them. They wear the jerseys the rest of the season. And then restore the patches at the end of the season. Now, the issue is if the patch gets returned returned to the wrong jersey. And Derek did a great job of documenting via photo matches, even down to threads, that the patch was put on the wrong jersey.
It was pretty obvious. Extremely obvious, actually. So we tried to contact the person in charge, and she's really, like, not caring, so Paul asked if I tried to contact the equipment manager who actually handles the jerseys. So I tried to do that and got an email back from the person who handles all those sales and pretty much bitching me out about trying to contact the equipment manager. And now, what was funny is, one's supposed to be set one, one's supposed to be playoff. And in the hem, they both said playoff set, right? So they're already tagged wrong. So I let them know about that, and I was asking them, can we get everything corrected to the point where the patch can go on the correct jersey, and that jersey can be tagged as set one, which is what it should be. Couldn't do that because that's not how it is, and whatever. So they ended up taking the playoff jersey in and putting a set one tag on the playoff jersey. So that's pretty much what I'm sitting with right now. So, I mean, they did something, but it still wasn't the right thing. And it's just a bad taste in my mouth. So, I mean, I try to not contact them as much as possible. Just because I feel like every single time I try to contact them about anything, it's just a slap in the mouth. And that's really unfortunate, especially with how much money I spend at the sale. And how much stuff I buy just trying to pick stuff up for people too.
Well, are you contacting the Red Wings or are you contacting the store there?
I consider them to be the same thing.
When you're contacting Hockeytown Authentics at Joe Louis Arena, it essentially is a branch of the team. Yeah. Christie works closely with the equipment manager, Paul, and his staff.
Right, but don't they do the equipment sale at a different store out in a different location?
It's the same store, it's just a different location. So they have two locations.
Authentics in Troy.
Yeah. Same people, same everything. So, yeah, I mean, that's... And your experiences with calling in and emailing in have been fantastic from what I hear.
Paul.
Paul, yeah, I get responses to everything I send in, get requests. Christy knows I forward the list to a number of people, post it in our Facebook group, sometimes on GameWorn.us, and I usually get a response within a day or two on almost any request. And, I'll call and ask, certain stuff, and it's night and day compared to Derek's experience, which I don't really understand why. Because, Derek really isn't that much of an ass when you come right down to it. Okay, maybe he is, but it makes no sense to me. Even from the beginning when Derek was contacting the team, it seemed like he was not really getting that many responses. And, I don't think I'm a difficult customer, but I really don't buy a huge amount, especially the high price stuff from the Red Wings. There's a lot of people who buy a lot more than I do from them. So I'm just baffled on.
Well, that could go down in that with human nature that Derek was doing in our world, the collector world, was doing the right thing. Hey, you guys are making a mistake and you're hurting my collection. You're hurting the hobby. If you go to what Bert said multiple times, they don't care. They just slap the patch on a different jersey, and how dare you tell them that they're wrong? That's probably where Derek got the feedback from. And most of us are going to say Derek was right because they were wrong. They put the patch on the wrong jersey. So it's not matching up. And in our world, that doesn't sit well with us collectors. If it doesn't match up, it doesn't sit well because it's not right. It doesn't look right. And I know Bert's got a bunch of examples with wrong tagging, wrong LOAs. It just messes things up. No matter what you're collecting, no matter if it's high end or low end.
I think that'll bring a good.
And I think you're right too, because then if you go to move that stuff, then you've got to explain why this is this way, and as a seller, you're putting everything out there, but some buyers either may still be leery or say they buy it and they're fine with it. If it gets moved down the road, some of that stuff, those stories or that information gets lost, and then you see that out in the hobby, and it's all kinds of effed up, and everybody's confused on why it's this way, and it gets lost in transit, I guess you could say.
Well, I think Derek has mentioned, and we've all said we'd like to see the GameWorn.us have a link or some type of on the page where we can document our jerseys and our experiences. I know I've started keeping better records of where I get my jersey from and who I sold it to, and if or traded it to or anything like that. And if there's anything about the jersey that's needed to know, like did it come with the LA? Does that team not do the LOAs? So if it goes from me to, you, Jason, then we have a tracking of where that jersey's been, and if there was a mistake, where that mistake was caught.
I'm actually working on that. I found some new Java and HTML, CSS stuff to work with that might give me the availability to do that. The problem is time and money, but ultimately that's going to be the end goal, is something that you can opt into and allow to see history of something, stories and things like that, pictures and about a specific jersey, as opposed, that way we have digital documentation and it can be public if you want. You can remove your entry or make it personal only to you and things like that. So I've got a lot of ideas. I've actually been mapping out the technical aspects of it right now. It's that time and money thing, and the baby's not helping, shit like that. But I mean, it would be.
Well, tell that kid to grow up and get on a computer, for Christ's sake.
If he's not busy playing hockey.
Well, Meigray does that already too. They have their tracking that if you've consigned or they get a Meigray documentation and it gets tracked to them where it goes and who has it.
Is that list public or is only their census public? I mean, what we were talking about before about doing an offline or a database off of GameWorn. I brought that up on our offline discussions before as well, which would be a great resource, whether it's via subscription or paid, free, whatever the case is. Just fantastic in terms of setting a history trail of where you purchased it or vice versa. I think, I've mentioned before, I have spreadsheets and databases doing the same thing. And some other guys on here have mentioned it as well. But the only census you ever see for Meigray is the actual per season. You can download the spreadsheet off their site. But I know I've gotten jerseys from, that other collectors put up for consignment. They have the Meigray tag on the actual LOA or folder or the little letter that accompanies it. But if I sold this and it went to 3-4 other collectors down the line, could they, what's the method for them to get a hold of Meigray and say, is this a legit jersey? Or is there, I'm sure they could answer some of the questions. But in terms of the other aspect is can you just go, hey, Meigray, what's your census for non-programmed items? Is that for public availability, or is that only on an item-by-item basis?
I'm pretty sure it's not for public, but if you have the jersey with the LOA and you contact them, they'll put you in it and tell you where it came from and who's previously had it.
I'm a big supporter of Meigray. I love what they do and everything, but as far as like the non-program items, I've not had a good experience. I've tried to call and quote-unquote register some jerseys that I have to let them know that they've been transferred to me and stuff like that. And I've either had to leave a message or they didn't know who needed to handle it that was on at that time. And I've never actually had success as far as re-registering a non-program item. And then I can't imagine calling to verify the authenticity of something in those regards with those results. And I think the problem with that program is it's not digital. It's you gotta call. It's more of the pain in the ass than anything. Like,
Well,
come on.
I think it is, Derek, because I've done some deals at the Nova Expo with Barry there where he just hopped on his laptop and had all that information. He had it. So he's like, oh, yeah, this was originally, and it's going to who? This guy. So he's putting in his information.
Yeah, but you
I
dealt
mean,
with him face to face, right, Bert?
right, right.
I'm thinking it
Now,
needs to be something where I can submit a form online. Or, I mean, even something as simple as that, where it's a form, it goes to somebody's email box and they process it later, and then you get a confirmation or something like that. But right now it's call. You have to talk to somebody. We're in the digital age. Everything is self-service right now. So I should be able to go to their website, punch in a number, and see some information about the shit. That's even a simple lookup in a database. That's not hard to do.
well, I mean, the nice thing though is that you can always, I mean, you have the population reports; those are public. You can't find them for any other team on. I mean, good luck on, you get a tag on the Islanders stuff. Good luck finding out, a set or what other than on that. How many?
Islanders, they don't
I
do
mean,
LOAs anymore.
I mean, I use them as an example because I like to beat up on them, but even the Red Wings, I haven't yet to see ever a Red Wings pop report.
I've
I mean,
actually talked to Christy about that. And I asked her, you guys have the new barcodes in there that has a little logo, in addition to the Hockeytown Authentics, number serialization. So I have a scannable barcode. And I asked her, if there would be any plans to make that information public so people would know what's out there and what's supposed to be what. And she said that it was in consideration. So it exists, and I believe the equipment managers use those barcodes for tracking of some sort.
The Penguins do that.
the Penguins put it on the LOA, so it's
Yeah, you get
it'll say like 4 or 5 games. I have a couple like that.
Yeah, the
you get a
Canucks
whole
do that
different
as
sheet,
well.
a whole hard plastic thing that says every game it was scanned out and in. Is that right? That's what I got one. Mine. Bert.
Yep.
And then you have a separate LOA that's saying, that Joe does saying, hey, this was purchased from the Penguins on this date, and now it's so you get like 2 pieces of things when you get a Penguins jersey from Joe. They scan theirs. The Red Wings have, I think, a serial number. Or is that Hockeytown Authentics have a serial number on it?
They have a scannable barcode similar to what you're talking about, because I imagine it's the same.
Well,
I've seen it up for multiple teams. The Canucks have it. The Red Wings have it.
well,
it sounds
it's
like
funny. The thing is, though, it won't be consistent. That's the whole point of this, that some teams will do it and do a good job, and other teams will just be, a cluster. And you're just like, really? Where's this come from? Like, I agree with Burke. The Islanders, now that they're going to take theirs over to somebody else, but they don't do LOAs anymore. They just, nope, they put a tag on it. That's it. That's all you get. So how do you know what set it was? How do you know anything about the jersey other than it just, yeah, okay, it came from the Islanders?
I was told the LOA was the tag and the receipt.
That's about what I was told. Maybe not those exact words, but the guy said pretty much those same things.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to the point. I think this database, it should be public knowledge. It should be easily accessible, with technology. But, we talked before the show about the Anaheim Ducks and their jerseys and Beckett and trying to work with all that, and we've seen jerseys that have been changed from a player to a star. Beckett also doesn't know what they have. I know Jim DiGiulio was doing a lot of research on certain jerseys coming out of the Ducks, saying that they're a specific set when they're obviously not. I know you guys were talking about a jersey that was stamped with an LOA that was different, that was photo matched to a different year even.
Well, it was LOA to 11-12, stamped 12-3, but matched to 10-11 or something like that. So photo matched to a completely different season. So it was basically 3 years of, you figure out where this thing was from.
So combine that with what Dan was saying about a story being lost. If we could compile all this information, like I obtained this directly from the Ducks, provide whatever proof you want to provide or whatever. But here's the story on it. That way, when somebody goes and looks it up, all right, we know for sure that it was sold this way, even though it's this. You don't lose the story. You don't lose the confidence. It's just something along that line. But I mean, it's just.
I think that's a great idea, but I think a lot of people don't want to make their collections public. I know that I have a little bit of regrets of putting some of my stuff online because you could imagine the daily shit offers I get, of some jersey I've had for 15 years, but I'm going to give it up for one of the $99 Meigray flash sale ones, Oh, sure, I'll get right on that. But I know a lot of people are leery about that.
My
and
concept
plus,
includes
there's a lot of
anonymity.
vintage jerseys that have never changed hands. So, a modern, okay, that might work, but vintage stuff, it may change once, twice every, decade.
Oh, trust me, I completely understand people not wanting to, tell other people that they have a specific thing, right? But that doesn't mean they don't want people to know that it exists. So in my concept, I buffered in a program for anonymity. So if you want to privatize a specific entry, or a specific current owner of a jersey, you'd be able to say not public or something along those lines. That way people know, yeah, this jersey exists somewhere. We don't know where or who, but check it out. It's pretty cool. Here's the pictures for it. Here's the LOA. Here's what we know about it.
On another thing, Derek, I have seen, we've all seen the Meigray pop reports, but there is, I guess, like a slightly different version that Meigray keeps internally that has who it was sold to. So, for example, if you were, say Detroit went to, Meigray, you could find out which jerseys they sent to whatever, Panini or Upper Deck or something like that. They know what jerseys were sold to card companies, and it'll say card company, which one, and what, so on and so forth.
Yeah, see, that's the information that I would love to see and I would love to have out there, because you're bored at work and you're just poking around and you're like, all right, let's see all the jerseys that have been chopped up. And then we know,
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see that info myself, or even sold and not chopped up, those kind of things. But then again, I don't want everybody knowing I paid $750 for some shit pre-order.
Yeah, I don't think we'd be asking in this database for like cost or anything like that. And say you wanted to create an entry but didn't want your information out there, everything would be tied to an account. You could check a box and it wouldn't display any of your account information. So if the person who you got it from was cool with it, they could, say this person had it and sold it to Anonymous and it's currently owned by Anonymous. And then if somebody bought it off of that person, then you could track it and say Anonymous sold it to Jim and Jim has it now. Just simple stuff like that. I mean, I program computer code at work for my real job. So, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that I imagine we do. It's just going to be the time and money thing. But
it'd have to be like a database that the person that was entering in there could go in there and, check the boxes if they want their names and whatnot, published, and then you could go in there and track it, and then you could say I moved it to somebody, like, let's say, for example, Bert and I did something. I said I traded to Bert, and then when Bert went in there, if he was part of the database, he picked up, the system would automatically pick it up, where then it would keep track of that jersey.
It's just a line entry on the thing. I've got the entire thing mapped out. It's just actually getting it programmed. That's going to be the part.
Has anyone ever contacted a team about a tag or an LOA and gotten a response about like, oh, that should go with this or that is this? Because you remember the Red Wings for a while had just kind of these generic LOAs. You didn't know what it was for. It just had a number.
They had a hologram. There was a serial number on the hologram, which was to match to the screening on the jersey. And then before that, they didn't even have screening on the jersey. It was just a sticker that you would apply to the jersey at the time of purchase to match the sticker that's with the LOA.
Yeah, but I've rarely found that hologram's even been on the jersey.
I don't put them
I've
on.
probably
I just
seen-
keep
I
them
could
with the
probably count
LOA.
on one hand. Yeah, just because people didn't want to stick the hologram on the sticker or on the
typically
jersey.
you get the 2 holograms, and no one sticks them on the jersey. But the Red Wings, if you do contact them with the number, they will tell you what jersey it belongs to.
I mean, for example, I've contacted Steiner, and I might as well have just deleted the draft email. I mean, I got no response.
For who?
For a jersey from Steiner. From a tag Steiner jersey with a barcode in the collar, but got no response.
Well, you're talking about the 2 extremes there. The one issue with the Red Wings and tracking their jerseys is most players tend to have 1 set per season and then a playoff set. The issue is sometimes they do switch to the playoff set early. So it would be good to know which players switched the playoff set early and when they did that. And the equipment staff knows that. And if they respond to you, they will let you know when that happened. Now there's Steiner. Most of those jerseys are worn, 6, 7, 8 games tops. And it's not even clear which games they were worn on many cases.
Doc, I think the Red Wings are the rule to the exception here, or exception to the rule here, because I mean I've done this with Vancouver, I've done it with Anaheim in the jersey that I spoke of. I've gotten no responses, and they basically don't keep track of them. Well, they have a tag, and they put it on, and they sew it on either after it's been worn, or before the season, or whatever, and that's it. It has a number, but no one keeps track of it. So that, I mean, which is way different than Meigray. And I mean, if you look at the lot of the jerseys that go through DHC, I mean, look at Phoenix. They don't have a tag number; they just say a set. Well, that tag doesn't get sewn on by the team; they get sewn on by DHC. Those jerseys don't have those tags during games.
There's definitely room for evolution, but I think it's really one step at a time. We have to get teams
my issue is it's hard to, once you get a jersey either second hand or third hand, okay, well, what the hell is this? You get the story from one person, but of course it changes as it goes along.
It's like the worst game of telephone ever. The farther the farther it's been sold, the less information is available. Now,
Absolutely.
is it a lot of teams that just don't give a shit, and it's all of, well, we got these, let's sell them and do whatever, or is it they just don't want to take the time, or they're thinking more in the mentality of the casual fan that just thinks it's cool to have a gamer of their favorite player?
I think that a lot of it is, one, lazy. It would be more work on specific people in the organization to do stuff and track it. And B, they don't think it's a significant return on investment, when in all actuality, it can be. I don't know. I think a lot of it is the lazy part. It's, whose job is this going to be? Well, if it's going to be my job, I don't want to do that. And I've seen that a lot, and when I've approached different teams, that's kind of what I've seen.
And
I mean, I work at an asset management company, so
what would the baseline be for an acceptable tracking program? What the extreme of having barcode gone in and out of every game they've been worn in, or at least a valid set 1, set 2 documentation with who they're being sold to.
I've mapped this all out.
What would be acceptable baseline for all teams?
For my real job, I actually work at a software company that produces asset management software. So this is the stuff that I do all day long, as I program software to track assets. So of course I've thought about this in doing this, and it's a very simple concept. I mean, it can be as quick as you scan a barcode and it logs the date time that it was scanned, and it can figure out if it's going in, if it's going out, if the player switches jersey mid-game, which period this jersey was worn in. Maybe that same jersey is worn first period of this game, second period of the next game, and so on. Like, it can track it down to the T. All you need to do is do a simple scan. You scan a simple barcode on it, and you can track all that information. And we found manufacturers with barcodes for clothes where you can iron it on and it's safe and all that stuff. And I've approached teams about actually using software that, you know, either this software or we would program something even more simple, because ours does friggin' everything under the sun. It's ridiculous. About using it. And the thing I keep on hearing back is that would put more work on so-and-so, so I don't see them using it. When it's a half-second scan, not even, just to throw something in, you can do it on your mobile phone. It's really simple. It's not hard. And in addition, it tracks inventory, such as how much stick tape do I have, when do I need to get more, how many sticks of this player's model do we still have, and when do we need to buy more. Like, it'll track all the logistics and all of that, save you time, save you money in addition, because, you know, I was trying to think of reasons why they would want to use this. So I was thinking, you know, trying to save them time and money and efficiency and shit. They don't care. You know, it comes down to this person isn't going to add an extra duty to their job.
The teams do care about their inventory. They care if they have enough sticks. They care if they have enough jerseys. They care about how much tape they have. What they don't care about is when a jersey was worn. That they care that the player has a jersey to wear. Hopefully that it's dry if he's a player who wants a different jersey each period. They also care about winning. They don't care when their jerseys are worn. We're a byproduct of their system.
Right. Well, one of the things that I was trying to pitch at the same time, too, is not only does the software check all that shit, but when it comes in, you can mark things that need repair work. So, say player's skate come in and he needs to sharpen it. You scan the skate, you say, this skate needs to be sharpened, so then at a later point you can print out a report and go fetch all the skates, sharpen them up, and you can mark them as sharp when you're done. Same thing with jerseys. They come in, they have a hole in them. You mark which jersey has a hole in it. You go get it repaired, and then on to the next. Like, I mapped out the value that using tracking-based software would have, and the time that it would save people, the documentation, and things like that. You know, I was trying to pitch it as, you know, the data that we collect, yes, is a byproduct, but you want to use it for these other reasons, you know, because it tracks things that need attention, things that are going out, coming in, what your inventory levels are. And it's just, it's the same thing we see in any industry, to be honest, is the system that we have right now works fine. And that's just what it is.
How do they track it now? If a jersey needs to be sewn up,
they probably just chunk it in a bin. Probably a bin or a pile, and then try and find it later.
It's just visual inspection these days.
Yeah. And then the cool thing is later they have to go through the entire jersey like, all right, here's a pile of jerseys. Where's the repair need to go on this? Where, you know, if you had software, you could say right arm sleeve cuff. And then you pick it up and you're like, oh, it's right here. You know,
well, I mean, that's another discussion, but sewn repairs are going away as well. They're now moving to this, you know, colored tape patch repair. And I think it's probably half the NHL teams have gone that way. Instead of actual, you know, taking the time to sew said repair, they'll just patch it. Because it's, you know, just an adhesive that just slaps onto the inside. It's much quicker to do. You don't need to have a sewing machine to do it. You need
I
some
guess it depends on
scissors
the team.
and a tape.
Yeah, the Red Wings actually send off their repairs to Sport Haven. So they don't even repair in-house. They have somebody else do it.
Wow.
What's the turnaround time on that then?
I don't know. When we were at the Red Wings sale, I was talking to somebody who was over at Sport Haven when they had a bunch of them in for repair. Was talking about looking at them and stuff. It was pretty cool.
And also wondering how that works when you're on the road. When you're on a road trip and something gets torn, you would think it'd have to be repaired that night.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of questions there.
Well, is that then with them bringing backup sets when they're on the road for reasons like that? If you tear something up, they've got the backups there, and maybe that's where you get into which game was this jersey worn for? Was it swapped halfway through, or again, then you run in a whole host of problems with that.
I don't know. I wish I could find one team to pilot the program, just one, even a lower league, just one, just. Because I know it could be successful, and the information we could get out of it would just be invaluable. And then they can roll that into making money. Like, here's all the games that this skate was used in. Shit like that. It's
like you got a hodgepodge of one team does this well, another team does this well, another team does this well, but they're all not consistent. So it's like you just take them all and put them all together and say, this is what you guys should do. But I agree with Paul. We're a byproduct, and most of them, probably 99% of them, could care less about our collection. So in that sense, it's almost like we have to take it on ourselves. We have to communicate ourselves. We have to chart ourselves. We have to track ourselves, because we're the ones that care about the collection of the hobby. I think, like Paul said, they care that they have enough jerseys and skates and sticks for the season. If they can get some of their money back or make a little profit at the end, some will do it, some won't.
You know what I'd like, Dan? I'd like the presentation of Ottawa and Vancouver. The wear of Detroit, the documentation that Pittsburgh and has, and maybe like the authenticity of and the documentation that comes with Meigray. That's what I'd want. That would be perfect if everybody could be on the same page. With that.
And I think if all of us collectors work together, we could fill the gaps in on some of these weaker teams, depending on what it is. I'm in the IT industry as well, and I nerd out on a lot of this stuff in terms of documentation. And I keep track of, hey, since I'm a hawk and ice hog collector, if I see something popping up on eBay or old sales lists or auction lists, I throw it on a spreadsheet. And then if I see it pop up again on eBay or whatever the case is, 6 months later, I document it was tried to resold by this user or whatever the case is. Or if it's on the forum, I'll put posted for sale at this time. So if down the road I buy, that specific jersey, I know it popped up X, Y, and Z 10 different times. I don't necessarily keep the sales price. I don't need to know that in necessarily some circumstances. In some cases I do. But in some cases it's a history trail. So if I do ever buy it and flip it or sell it or keep it, whatever, I know it got resold 8 times before it left the Hawk store. And here's the history, who had it, whatever the case is. Or if like an LOA got lost along the mix, hey, I saw on eBay it sold 2 years ago. It didn't have an LOA, but the last time I saw it publicly sold 6 years ago, it did, or vice versa. So, I think in some cases, I brought it up before offline, off the recordings, we could make a good database or some kind of tracking history between all of us, depending on what teams you specialize in or see. You guys will know the Toledo and the Detroits. I'll know, the Ice Hogs or some local teams and stuff like that, depending on how detailed people want to be.
Well,
I think that through our conversations, we've all become more detailed with tracking. I know I have. I know I've expanded mine, maybe not the extent of yours, but I've tried to even go more in depth of what I have and how I trade or sell, so I have more of a better database for myself. So I think we are moving that direction.
Well, we got
fill in the gaps, as Paul said.
All right. That's going to be the end of our show. We're definitely going to have to continue this a little bit later. But if any of you guys have a team that you'd like to try and get the pilot program going, let's try and do that. Thanks for the show, guys.